Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today I'm doing a scrap buster project, but I'm not starting with scraps. I don't really have a bad problem with scraps because I use them so much, so I'm not going to stress over that today. But if you need a way to get rid of some scraps, what we're doing today is the way. I'm going to use this guy. What I really want to show you is how to use the B sides of paper, okay? This paper pack is so cute. It's called Coffee Shop, and I love it. We just got it in. I showed it last night in the live show. And as I was flipping, I kept going, you guys, look at the B side of this paper. It's so cute. Isn't that precious? Some of the A sides in this 6x6 are going to work as well, but I thought, let me show you how to use some paper that you might have in a paper pad or in a collection that you don't love in a different way. Okay, let's get started with some fun quilt cards. So I said we wouldn't necessarily use scraps here because I'm using that book, but these did come from my scrap bin. These are some pieces that I cut down to 4x4, and they're going to be carrier sheets for what we're going to do. You guys really love when we did the stack and whack quilt cards that one time. We're doing something very similar to that. So get yourself 5, 6, 10, whatever you want to work with, 4x4 pieces to give yourself a base. Then what we're going to do to make this super easy is we're going to focus on 2 colors. That's all we're going to have to do. We're going to focus on a dark and a light. So I'm going to go through. This would be considered a light. I love this page right here. So I'm going to pull this one out. I'm not worried about the cut aparts. I have plenty of cut aparts between this and my 12x12 pack, but I love this pattern. And look, here's a dark. Let's use this one to go with it. That is perfect. So I'm going to pull this guy out, and I'm going to cut this down to 2x2 squares. Now, if you only want to make 1 card out of this, you're only going to need 2 dark squares and 2 light squares. But if you kind of want to do this as many as style, where you can get as many cards as possible out of it, go ahead and cut this completely down to as many 2x2s as you can get. Okay, so now what I want to do, I've cut these apart. I'm going to place them into 2 piles, a dark pile and a light pile. So we're going to be playing with something called disappearing 4 patches, okay? So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take one of your carrier sheets, okay? You're going to need your glue handy. And the first thing you want to do is you want to apply glue to the back of your little piece. And we're going to glue these into the 4 corners. Now pay attention to your pattern layout, or at least the design on your cardstock. And I like to stand this up and push this down into the corner to get myself started with that first one. Then we're going to put a light one next to it. So the idea behind this is to play off this light and dark. Now at the top, we want to switch this where we have the dark here and the light here. Now we want to do dark and light, so they'll be opposite. While I glue this one down, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen next because this is kind of cool. So I'm going to make several of these pieces that we're doing right now, these kind of 4 block pieces. Then I'm going to show you many different ways to slice this up and create different card blocks that look like quilts. Many of you adore quilt blocks, many of you. Every time I do a quilt block video, you guys love it. But you also love using up your scraps and chopping into these things and getting something different. So stick around. We're going to do a bunch. I think 5, but maybe more. So stick around. I'm going to get these guys all ready so I can show you, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, we're going to watch me make these scraps disappear. Check this out. I was able to get from 4 pieces of 6x6, I was able to get 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 of our little 4 blocks, and there's one that is not like the others. This guy. It's probably hard to tell, but I ended up having an uneven offcut, right? So we were able to use these to make this little 4 blocks. So you'll see that as we get going. All right, let's do the fun part. Let's cut these guys up and turn them into something else completely. For our first trick, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use this center section as our measuring spot, okay? What I want to do is I want to come 1/2 inch away from the center on both sides and cut. So I'm going to line this guy up at 1/2 inch. If you're not sure where 1/2 inch is on your trimmer, you can mark it with some tape. So let me grab some yellow tape and show you what I mean. So to be able to see underneath, come up here to 1/2 inch, make yourself a little mark at where 1/2 inch is. And it doesn't have to really be straight. You just want to know where you're going there. Then put this guy in and line that center line up with that guide on your trimmer, okay? Then be brave, we're going to cut through. So what you did, well, you may have to cut through twice like I will because I'm using pretty thick cardstock here. There we go. So what we did is this. Okay, now what we want to do is the same thing, but on the other side of our center line. So I'll turn this around so I can use my same measure here. I'm going to put this down and run this through. And now what we've got is the same thing, but on the other side. So let me lay this down so you can see what we did. So we've cut just like this. We still have our 4 patch in there, okay? But now we've separated them. Now what I want to do is I want to do this same cut all the way through the middle here. So let's go back to the trimmer. I'm going to lay this up here so you can kind of see what we're working with, okay? I'm going to take this bottom piece and I'm going to cut it at 1/2 inch, just like we did the top. So I'm lining up the middle at my 1/2 inch line and slicing. And I'm going to keep it in its 4 patch here for you to see it. So this goes back here. And now I need to do the same thing here. So here you're just cutting 1 inch away, right? But I'm going to keep using that middle piece as my guide to try to keep my design centered. All right, so now we're going to put this back and you'll still see the 4 patch. See that? So let's take this one up, do the same cuts, go into that middle section, cut 1/2 inch. I don't have to flip it around. I can just slide this over. There. Place this here. And then we're going to do the same thing here. So taking our center to the 1/2 inch. Pull that guy off. I'm going to turn him around and do it the same way for consistency. I did one of them by measuring the inch and it's not quite the same. So I won't do that in the future. All right, let's put it back so that it looks like our same old 4 patch. Do you see that design? Same old 4 patch, okay? I'm going to move this off the trimmer so we can look at it now. You guys all know that these things are inspired from the quilt world, and I watched a video that was so great that I'm going to link below. So if you are interested in seeing this done in fabric, you can watch that video because that's where all today's inspiration came from. Okay, so we have this cut like this. Let's start to play. Let's pull these guys out. Pull these guys out just like this, okay? Now what I'm going to do is flip them around, make it where you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to turn this guy around and slide him back in. I want you to see what's going to happen. Same here. Turn him around and slide him back in. Turn this guy around. Let's put him back. And turn this guy around and put him back. That is all I'm doing here to create this adorable block. And what I love about this is whenever I make quilt cards with you guys, so many of you say, I cannot deal with the tiny squares. Can you imagine if we had cut 4 1/2 inch squares and placed that there, how messy that would have been? Doing it this way is beautiful, right? Okay, let's put this down so we can use it for a card. And let me show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to use some full sheet adhesive. This is from Craft Perfect and it's the A4. I actually showed you the back side. This is the front. So I'm going to pull one of these out. I'm going to use the whole sheet because I'm going to be making a bunch of these, right? So I'm just going to use a whole sheet. With these adhesives, one side is the carrier sheet and one side is the adhesive. What I'm going to do, try not to pick up my little pieces over here as I'm doing this. I'm going to take this and just fold it back and get it out of my way, but also give me a place to be able to rest my hand. So see that I can put my hand here without too much mess. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little guy and I'm going to put him on to this carrier sheet or to this adhesive in the pattern that we just laid out over here. Take your time, lift up the back side of it and only place the edge next to where it goes before you place it down. And that way you'll get this nice tight area there in the middle. Now, because we use the full sheet adhesive, when we cut this guy off of here, it can go straight onto a card base. Isn't that cool? And to protect it, I'm just going to do this till we come back here and we'll keep going. Let's do another disappearing 4 patch. For this one, the thing I want to be sure I've done well is make sure I've got my center really nice and tight. This one looks really good, so we're going to use this one. Now go back to your trimmer, and this one's easy, you guys. All you're going to do is we're going to diagonal cut across these corners, okay? So I'm going to place this in my trimmer where that edge and that edge is lined up on my cut bar and cut across. I am going to sink my blade here because I don't want to wrinkle this too bad. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to cut this away just like this on all 4 sides. So I'm putting this back so you can see our 4 patch again, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to turn this into something else. Okay, we're going to slide these guys out of here, all right? And then we're going to move them around. So if I take the darks to the lights, and I take the lights to the dark, look how pretty that is, and look how easy that was. No fancy little tiny cuts, no having to cut a bunch of little cut aparts. That's all we had to do. This guy is now ready for the carrier sheet. So now, just going to peel this up. I think I'll turn it around so I can get to the other side. And I'm going to start in this bottom corner, placing these guys on. And that gives me a second little quilt card section. I just love that so much. All right, put this back over to protect them. Let's do another. Our second one starts just like what we just did. So what I'm going to do really quick is go ahead and slice these corners off just like we did a moment ago and get this guy ready for the next step. Now I'm going to lay this one back out into our 4 patch layout so we can see what we're doing here and get everything nice and lined up. Try to make sure you're putting the right one with the right one. Look at your patterns and make sure your pattern lines up. That'll really help you in the next part. It'll make it look cohesive. All right, so we've got this guy all lined up just like this. Nice and tight in here, okay? Now I'm going to make a pencil mark. We're going to use a ruler and make some pencil marks here. So using a ruler and a pencil, I'm going to come away from the middle 3/4 of an inch. So I'm putting my grid, this grid line in the center, 3/4 of an inch in, and I'm going to run a pencil mark. Keeping everything where it's at, I'm going to turn this to the other side, lay this down, my 3/4 of an inch grid line right in the middle, make a pencil mark. So now we've got that pencil mark going up here, and I want to do the same thing across the bottom. This is a great, great place to use your rotating cutting mat if you have one. I do. I'm just a little lazy to grab it, but this would be a good spot for it. All right, let's make another pencil mark up here. And then here. So we've done 4 marks across the middle, 3/4 of an inch from the center. You know, to make this easier in hindsight, I think I would do this before. Make your pencil marks before you cut your corners, and you'll be fine. They'll still be there. So just go ahead and make your grid mark, cut your corners off, and then go and do these cuts. Now we're going to go back to the trimmer. And I want to cut on all those pencil marks. And then I'm going to lay this back in its order, okay? Because I want to be able to see my 4 patch every time. Okay, so we have all our pieces back into our 4 patch. This is going to be the hardest one so far, okay? But it won't be that hard. Watch what we're going to do. We're going to play with this section, this one, and this one. We're basically going to pull this out and turn it around, but we're going to start by pulling these 2 away first, then this guy, and we want to turn this one, and we're going to switch the dark and the light. I just want you to see this here. You see that? So we took that little block out and we edited it to look like that. Then this whole piece is going to go right back here, just like that. We're going to create a star. Let's do another end. So I'm going to pull this guy away, pull this guy out. We're going to turn him around, switch and switch. So where I have dark on this side, I want to put light on this side. And where I have light over here, I want to put dark. Set that down so we can move this in. Then I'll slide this back in, just like that. Can you see our star starting to appear? You see it there? Okay, let's do the other one. And now the top. So there's a star in the middle. I'm going to try, you don't have to do this, but you see this little guy right here? I want to pull him out and see what he looks like if I switch him. So if I move this guy over, which is dark, and I move this guy down here, I think we'll see our star even better. We can compare sides. I think we can really see it. So we'll switch those 2 little guys out. Now let me tell you, I get that this one's not for everybody. This one's a little more work, a little more brain power, but if you love puzzles, this one's a fun one. Like, I love all the little cuts and how we turned this into something completely different, and we started with a 4 patch. Look how cute that is. Okay, now let's put this down on our carrier sheet. Start in a corner and just build what you see. You don't really have to worry too much about getting it square on this sheet. As long as you're putting the piece back square, you're really fine. Don't worry about if it's like hanging off the edge here. That's not going to be a big deal later. So there it is on the carrier sheet. And just like with my sewing channel, if you're looking for perfect points, this is not the channel for you because my points here are not perfect. But I do like how it looks. I will tell you, this one may be one you want to skip. I'm telling you, if you don't like tiny pieces, don't do this one. But we've got more. Let's do another one. Now this one is going to be easy peasy. You're going to like this one, okay? You've got your 4-patch. We're going to cut here and here to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into my trimmer. And I think on this one, I'm going to cut it at 1 inch. Let me move my little tape so I can see the inch. The inch is easy because it's 4 lines out. This way I can see where I'm cutting. All right, so from the center, I'm going to measure 1 inch right there, and I'm going to slice. Put that aside. And then the same here, I'm going to turn it around, and from the middle, I want to cut 1 inch from that center. Now I'm going to put this back for you to see what it is because I want you to see what our next cut is. Okay, so this is our cut 4-patch. What I want you to do now is push this one out of the way and this one out of the way and grab this guy. We're just going to cut through the center now. I'm going to pull these down out of the way, and we're going to do the same cut. So we're going to go 1 inch from the middle and slice and turn it around and do the same. Okay, so let's put it all back together, and I'll do it on the mat so we can look at it. Okay, so here we are all laid back out so you can see what we cut, and now here's where we're going to make the change, okay? We're going to take these guys and turn them around, so just turn them upside down and put them back, and then we're going to turn these upside down and put them back. And look what we get. We get corners, and that 4-patch in the middle. Isn't that cute? I love that so much. So now we can put this one down on our carrier sheet. So that's 4. Let's look at another one. Okay, on this one we're going to make some pencil marks, and I'm going to use my cutting mat for this. So I'm laying this out onto the grid, okay? And I'm going to make a mark 1 inch in from every corner. So that's that corner, okay? I'm going to come over here and do this corner. Make your marks where you can see them. Okay, now we're going to take this to the trimmer. All of those marks we made, we're going to connect diagonally with a slice, okay? So I'm going to go to my 1 inch here and my 1 inch there, and we're going to slice. Same on this side. In an effort to be lazy, I just laid everything back together. I've lined up my inch there, and I'm going to cut through all of these pieces. So you see how many pieces we ended up with here. I'm going to turn it around, line it up, and slice through again. You could just draw a pencil mark here, and I probably should have. I'm in the habit of cutting fabric, and with fabric, we don't pick it up. We just move our ruler around, but here I'm using a trimmer, so it makes it a little bit different. All right, cut through. Now I have this laying where you can see the 4-patch again, and now here's what we're going to change here. We're going to start with our dark corners, our biggest dark pieces, and pull those out, and then we're going to pull out these lighter pieces just like this. Now we're going to just switch them. So we're going to put this one over here, this one over here, this one here, and then this one here. This one's pretty. I like how this looks. Just like that, and then we'll go and put it on our adhesive, and it is ready to become a quilt card. So now I'm going to cover this up with my carrier sheet, and I'm going to use my scissors to just release this off of here. So I'm just going to cut down the side. I can see them. I'm not squaring up at this point. I'm just getting these guys off of here. And the trick with any quilt or quilt card is squaring them up. So I'm going to do that here. I can see how my corners or my end here is really uneven. Let's square that up with our trimmer. And because we've added that adhesive, we may have to cut through with our scissors also to cut the adhesive backer, but we've got a straight line from the trimmer, much better. We're not too worried about size here. We're just creating these to be, you know, embellishments. So they're almost like creating ephemera that we can use wherever we want. So that's step one in finishing them. I'm going to go around and square up all the ones we made, and then we'll show you the next thing I want to do. So now I'm going to grab my stamp wheel and our stamp set that is called Meander, because these guys need stitching, right? Look how cute this is. And you see here this little corner piece I put in, this is an alignment guide. That's where my blocks will live. So when I put my stamp down, I just want to make sure that I'm covering all of my piece. So see, if I do it like this, I'm good. So let's pick this up on the block. And by lining it up with the alignment corners like this, I don't have to, you know, check and recheck that I've got this where my stamp is. Now let's get some ink. Now, full disclosure, this is not completely flat because I had to overlap them to kind of keep my star. So I'm going to emboss these, and I'm going to run them through an embossing machine so we can see what that looks like too. But I may have to stamp this one multiple times to be able to get down into those grooves. So let's just see what it does. I'm going to use an impressible to kind of press. Look how cute that is. That actually turned out really well. I think it got everywhere. That's perfect. Let's do the rest of them. Now I'm going to run some through our embossing folder. So I picked one of the large embossing folders. We'll link just a collection of the embossing folders we have. There's so many to choose from. But what I love about these large ones is you can place multiples in at a time so you don't have to do quite as much arm work, right? Lay this in. I'm using a simple folder because I feel like these are pretty busy. Also, I'll show you. We talk about this a lot. When you're using your folders and these thicker pieces, you might have to edit your sandwich. I'm editing mine to be the plate, the little extra plate, or like the little shim piece, and only the top plate. That's all I'm running through, and it works perfect. Look how cute they are. They just need that little extra, don't they? I like them when they do. You can see that on the back there. All right, I've got one more to do. Here's that last one. And if you remember, this is the one that I had not laid perfectly. It had lifts and kind of bumps. That embossing folder just flattens it completely out. I love that. Let's look at all of them. Check out our little quilt squares we did. This is so cute. And they are easy peasy because you start with 4 patches, so it makes it super easy. I still have these left that I can do more with. If you would like to see more options for how we can slice and dice these guys and turn them into something else, let me know. Look how cute this is. Maybe you're making a folio and you want to cover the front in like a quilt pattern. Look at that. And if you did the same pieces multiple times, it would be so pretty. You could do 6 of these, glue this together, cut it out to the shape of your folio. Oh, that would be so cute. All right, you guys, so that's 5 ideas for disappearing 4 patches and using up some 2x2 scraps. I hope you enjoyed this very, very much, and I hope you enjoyed seeing using the B side of paper. That paper is so beautiful. Here's what I would suggest. If you've got paper packs, you don't love every piece, start making yourself a stash of kind of like, what do we call the misfit papers that we don't use? Make that stash and then periodically come through and make yourself some of these guys. Turn these into cards, note cards, tag fronts, folio, anything. Just make yourself some blocks and you can use them for anything. All right, you guys, thanks so much for being here today. If you'd like to see some of our other quilt card videos, I have lots of them, or stash buster videos, we'll put that in the screen for you here so you can click on that. Please give us a subscribe, but even more than that, I would love to see your creations like this. So share them with us one of 2 places, our customer gallery at maymaymadeit.com or our Facebook, Maymay Made It and So Did I. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time, bye now.